Well, hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. My name is Joshua Kell. I am the CEO of Horizon AVL and Esports Integration. I will be moderating this panel today, and we are talking about creator opportunities for schools. And we really want to talk more specifically, and I think a word that we all need to define is content creation and what that looks like, and how schools are addressing really this part of the esports and gaming industry. We do have a limited amount of time here today, so I want to limit introductions. You guys can go and look into the app and look up everyone's bio. But I do want to do some brief introductions of who is on our panel today. We've got Joey. Joey Grogowski is from Shenandoah University. He is the head coach over there. And so we thank you, Joey, for being here. And Doc Haskell, he's the head coach and director of varsity esports at Boise State. And we have with us from CDW, he is the manager of esports. That's Doug Konopelko. And we should be hopefully having soon Karen Ruggles from Ruggles from DeSales University. She is the varsity esports program director. So we'll look forward to seeing her hopefully soon. But let's start off with this question. What is content creation? Because I think that really needs to be defined within this conversation, if we can. So I
want to hear Gariziak's answer to this.
Yeah, go for it, Joey.
Doc. No, that's fine. I think we gave the hardest last names in the world to Josh to try and
I did. I messed that up. I did.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. No, content creation is really difficult to define. And there's Karen coming in right there.
Hey, Karen.
The Ruggles is here.
The Ruggles is here.
And we'll get her thoughts on this too. So Karen, right now we're talking about content creation and defining what content creation to us means. You know, for me here, I think content creation is really, it's a form of digital media, digital marketing that goes out that is really, really widespread. It could be anything from streaming something to recording a short documentary to capturing footage and content, highlight videos. So content creation is something that's huge in the industry that creates marketing material to get eyes on you or your program or your gameplay footage. And it's something that is entertaining. To me, content should be entertaining. Doesn't have to be, but it certainly should be, to put that spin on it, to get people interested and excited in what you're doing. And so it's this new form of media that's coming out that is much more on demand than it is you have to be watching at a certain time, like you would see traditional cable, traditional media forms. So a lot of times it's edited content that is not necessarily live, that is entertaining in nature and is used as a form of a lot of times promotion or marketing to get the word out about what you're doing as either a person or a program. But that is really all over the place. I'll let the smarter people now be able to provide better definitions. So Doug, I'll throw it to you.
Oh boy, no pressure. I mean, you give the complete answer and then say, throw it to you, right? So I think, one of the things that sticks out when we're talking about creation is that it goes, beyond just sort of the typical media and the typical areas that we've seen and that we've been working in, right? It goes into how are we involving, more people in our programs, right? Beyond just like the marketing team, right? So how are we getting the other students at our schools involved in our programs, and not just what's officially that marketing piece, but how are we getting all those folks involved to make sure that they're getting those real world experiences, which is a term I feel like I increasingly hate to say. It feels weird when it comes out of my mouth, but there are just places that are doing incredible work surrounding that. As I throw it to Doc.
Oh, that was a nice segue. I wanted to write this down so that I would remember how to do it. So for us, media creation is storytelling. It is what will happen, what is happening, and what has happened. And we do those in preparation for each of the stories we're going to tell. And almost all of them are, epic matchup. Shenandoah comes into our house and we're going to wreck them, right? It's all that kind of stuff. We're still trying to scholarship a wrestling voice to kind of announcer. We don't have that person yet. But really, for us, it's the storytelling, what is, and what has happened. in real time. And so all of the roles that we create service that function. We're unique on a big Division I FBS college campus, and we've got a football team that wins every media battle. So we can't wait for the 2 times a year the local news is going to swing by and do a cute piece on something if they have time. We have to be in charge of our own storytelling, and it has to be as important as any of our competitive teams. In fact, in some ways more important, because it services all 5 of the competitive teams.
Yeah, and I think
and then to Karen.
And I think to kind of like wrap that up, the important, obviously the storytelling aspect is predominant there, and the marketing piece is really important to develop the brand of your program. And I think what all of us would agree is that it's building that sense of community. So, you can have something really amazing happening with an individual player or your program in general, but if it's not out there, then no one knows about it, and I think we're at this very unique position where the students can take charge of that community and start sharing those stories, and also thinking about how that lens reaches a wider audience. I use this example a lot for the traditional field sports like we have at DeSales' campus, soccer. Doc mentioned football, where a lot of times you have to, unless you have a huge viewer base, and it is being broadcast on local networks or even national networks for the field sports, a lot of times you have to physically walk to the soccer field and sit in the bleachers and watch that game. And of course, the pandemic has changed all of that, where more, whether it be a theater production or a traditional field sport, turn to, what we're doing, and started asking. I know a lot of my colleagues, they're knocking on our door saying, hey, how do you do this Twitch thing? What is that? Because they're interested in reaching a wider audience. And I think that it's, it's not just unique to esports in this content creation field, as Joey alluded to before, but also this sense of a broader scope of community. So who is part of that community? Who are you attracting? How are you telling your story? And then for the students, how can you, harness your message? So if it's something that you believe in very deeply, like putting a good face forward and making your community better through that content creation.
Sure. So I want to ask you, Karen, and Doc made a reference of roles. The roles in content creation. My son, he's 12. The way that he receives content is on his iPad, his iPhone, right? That is a generational understanding of content creation or how they receive content. One of his favorites is watching Dude Perfect. And what was interesting over the summer, they actually had made an announcement that they, as Dude Perfect, see this industry from their perspective as content creators and influencers, that they were going to hold a camp for kids to understand the industry.
And to crash go-karts.
And to crash go-karts.
We're lucky.
You got it. So
be safe.
So I'd like to define roles, right? The roles within content creation. And I think that there is a lot of questions. People have a lot of questions of what is actually content creation. We kind of went over what that looks like, but really, what are the roles and responsibilities within that? Is it just taking out a camera and filming it and that's it and then posting on the internet? Or is it deeper than that, Karen?
Yeah, so I can take that. At DeSales University, I teach in our digital art and 3D animation side of the house. So that's sort of like the first part of my job. And then I do the varsity esports thing as a sort of an addendum to my job. So the animation, all of the fancy stuff that you see flying around on the screen, that has to be created by someone. And in some cases, it's templates that you sell as a packet. So I often talk to my students who are interested in content creation, whether that be for YouTube and Twitch or just social media. A lot of times you package all of those together and you're doing all of them, and just to try to harness how to do that most efficiently. So, I think it's just like anything else. It's hard in some cases to put labels on things because it's almost like saying, what is media? And media is just so all encompassing. What are the jobs within media? And the same thing is true for content creation. Media is just sort of evolving into this space and, filling a wider, branch of that. And you could be a business analyst, analyst in content creation. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's on screen, someone who's creating the graphics, editing, posting. You could be, on the financial end. So it's just about really the opportunities that are placed in front of you and that you're able to capitalize on using some of the programs that you see represented on the screen.
Great. Doc, can I ask you the same thing from your perspective? Roles, you guys have a setup that is very dedicated to streaming content creation. What are the roles that you guys focus on within your institution?
Well, I'm gonna warn the audience right now. I'm not gonna give as a beautiful and holistic view as Karen did. She sees it in a completely different way. Well, no, she sees it in a much fuller way than I think that we see it. But we have casters or storytellers. We have production. We have artists, and that's kind of where it is. I mean, for us, sorry, I'll take you on a little mini tour here. We have a control room. I know Joey's seen this so many times. Our control room sits adjacent to our arena, and it's basically a television control room that we built. It's all software switched, but it serves the kind of storytelling we do. So it brings in all the different kinds of cameras from computers. We have 10 in arena cameras that are all controllable in PTZ. We have our observer stations all in the same space, and they're run by a director who basically calls the show as needed. And so we have people that work in that space. We have people that work up here. We have college students, so we don't actually do any editing in post, and that's going to sound really strange. We don't collect a lot of independent footage and then try to edit it together because the cost of the return cost on that is so low. Sorry, I just realized and this is intentionally for Joey. I need to just change the way the room looks real quick, like you do. But can I do it for him? No, I guess I can't do it for him. I tried though.
That's good. I like the effort, Doc.
I'm going to keep trying until I get it to work. So,
I think the other important thing that I'll throw out there,
go, Doc.
Karen kind of mentioned a little bit, is especially with a lot of folks have really small staffs for esports right now. So being able to templatize the media that you're using and go on and purchase a media pack and then just alter that to do what you need it to do, I think becomes really important because most schools that we talk to don't have quite the setups that we see in the background today, right? But more just are still beginning, right? And understanding, okay, we need to tell the story around our program, and how do we do that? So I think that efficiency becomes really important there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And to kind of wrap some of this up, like Doc is saying, there are these special roles, and I think he nailed it with artist, because a lot of people do have technical skills, but there is an art to creating content, and it's beyond just graphic design, right? There's a creative vision you have to tell this story in a way that makes sense and is entertaining and is digestible and all that stuff. I don't have that. I'm glad my students have that, because I am not a creative person like they are. They really tap into what they do well, and they will envision things that I could never imagine. And then it's getting that word out, like, okay, now we got to create that, right? What does that graphic look like? What are these overlays? What does that storyboard look like for this piece, this material that we are creating? And then it's using the technical side, right? Whether it's using the software, the hardware, getting the videography, getting the video editing, whether it's in post or not in post. Like Doc said, they don't do things in post, which is awesome. We need to move to that model because it is bogging us down. It is killer to try to do a lot of things in post. And it really does create almost a bottleneck at times, because we can have all the B-roll in the world, but if you don't know what to do with that, it's not going to serve any purpose whatsoever. But love, I can't express how important it is to, yes, have the technical skills, but also that creative vision and that artistic vision to really create this content that's effective for people.
And I think Joey is also alluding to the team effort. So being able to work as a team, which is reflected obviously in the esports arena with the competitors, but you also need a team of content creators. And hopefully it's not just one person doing all of those things, but it's someone who can also articulate that. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions that I find going into esports, is that many people who are not within this world think that communication is not a very important skill that is recruitable for esports, or it's fine if you don't have it, but it's one of the top things that I look for. If you can't communicate in game or in the arena, there's really not, that's something that you have to grind on, because there's so much to it that helps with that efficiency, especially with Doc's case. If you're working in a live environment, that needs to be on point and very, very lean so that your production value goes up.
There's no better communicator than Karen Ruggles. I can tell y'all there right now.
100%.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable how
endorsement.
efficient she is. And so by teaching this stuff, she's absolutely amazing. So listen to what she's saying. Communication is huge. And if anybody can teach it and get that point across, it's definitely Karen.
Yep.
Thanks, Joey.
And if I can build my budget a little more, that icon on her jacket is going to change. It's going to look a lot like this one if I can do it. But a lot of people don't know this. When you think about funding models, us and increasingly more and more universities with esports are heavily funded by what we do in broadcasting and production. And for every broadcast, we have we're about to roll out a fourth one, 4 independent pieces of social media inventory that we generate for other people. You get the jokes about the Doc's keys and stuff like that. And you know what? They can meme me all day long if it continues to fund scholarships for our program, which those do. And there are a lot of companies who just need to support something and get more. I mean, the thing that they don't do well is social media. And if you can come up with a clean way to generate a top player of the game, 5 to 10 times a week, they'll support your program so that you can do that and they can underwrite it.
That's great. General for everyone who is participating, if you do have a question, I just want to remind you guys, please use the chat. And towards the end of this conversation, we'll run through some of the questions. I know some of them have been coming in. So, but I do want to talk. We talked about roles. We talked about defining content creation. We've talked about the roles, but I want to talk about skill sets just for a moment. Playing off of something that we say at Horizon AVL and esports integration, that esports is a vessel, right? And the way that a vessel, it's a vessel. It is something. You want more? You want more on the vessel?
I'm excited. No, he's a very tangible person. So he's just trying to stay with you.
Okay. All right. So what we're seeing is that these skills that are being developed, they're transferable. And I just want to sort of talk through that it's not just going to be esports at the end of the day, but skills that are transferable. And I just want to kind of get your take on maybe some of the conversations that you're having with students as they're coming in, and sort of their expectations of the skills that are being developed and how they can use those skills then to transfer to other industries besides just what we look at from broadcast or from an esports perspective. Anyone want to take that?
For me, too deep.
Too deep?
That's a Karen.
That's too deep.
Question.
Definitely Karen.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I am consistently trying to engage with my esports students is just marketing themselves. So we talk a lot, in this panel, what have you, in marketing a program, an idea, a value, whatever the case may be, elevating a brand, but then, trying to retrofit that to themselves. And whether that be that you're applying for an internship, you're applying for a job, trying to get your name out there if you're a freelancer or something along those lines. It's how do you sort of wrap your mind around telling your own story. So, I think that's one of the really interesting spaces that we can explore as we think about, the student who is maybe in high school or, in intermediary school, looking to come to college and then college off to, the next stage, whether that be further education or job market or whatever their path leads. And it's thinking about those opportunities and being able to talk about them. And as far as the transferable skills, I think a lot of times I find, and maybe you guys have some different stories, that the students are very one-to-one, right? I'm very good at this game, and therefore I see results in the win-loss record. But then, just trying to get broader than that and saying the tenacity that you use. I use this example all the time where if I have a student who's failing chemistry, right, or they're not doing well in chemistry, and I'm like, listen, you got to bring that grade up. They're like, well, I don't know how. It's such a hard topic. And I say, well, what happens when you don't get a strategy in game? What do you do? well, I go to coach and I put in extra reps in the arena, and I talk to my teammates and try to make sure that my comms are better. And I'm like, that's what you need to do in the classroom. You go to the hour, go to the library for extra reps, right? Extra hours of studying. You perform a study group. So, and you'll be amazed how many times they're like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of it like that. Like the skills that they're learning in the arena, although we're kind of wrapping it in fun and, an exciting space that they're engaged in, is also directly impactful for what they're trying to do, whether it be, in the classroom or in the next stage of their life. And also, arguably in their personal lives as well, how to develop, friendships and just their interpersonal relationships. And then I guess the third part of that is their own self-awareness and their own, comfort within their own body, which relates directly to mental health, which is really important as well. So, I think that as that's a big column, a couple of columns to consider, but it's really just about that education space, which I think is really important in undergraduate, for students to really start thinking about themselves, thinking about how do they get, what do they like? How can they learn from that to push it to another space? And how do they talk about it so that they can, articulate that to a job hunter, an internship potential, or anything they really need?
How do you follow that up?
You don't.
Every time.
Next
it's like,
question?
I need a mic drop. Like we're done. Like
that is Karen is absolutely spot on, as always, with this stuff. And to take it another step with the educational side, Shenandoah does offer a number of academic programs like a degree in esports. I was telling my intro to esports class today, if you are in the degree program to get a degree in esports only to work in esports, you are completely missing the boat. Right? I say esports is not a vessel. I say it's a vehicle. Very different. And so I say that esports is definitely that vehicle that you're learning skills. Yeah, everybody drive your vehicle now. There you go. Thanks. That you're learning so many skills that can be applied to so many different areas. And yeah, you're learning it through that lens of what esports has to offer because they're passionate about it. And the same thing was very true of sport management. I was a sport management professor for 7 years. I told my students every day, number one, you're not going to be a pro athlete. I can tell you that right now. Not a D3 school. You're not making it pro. Very similar to esports. My students come in here, they're not going to be pro esports athletes. But what they can do is use it as an educational opportunity to understand things like communication, like problem solving, like group work, like adaptability. I mean, these are critical skills needed across industries in the workplace to help them be successful when they graduate, whatever that word success means. And if we can have an esports degree and have an intro to esports class, or call a class contemporary issues in esports or event management in esports, but they're learning so many skills that go across different disciplines, that's a success. Whether they realize it or not, we are trying to prepare them for graduation to be productive citizens, whether it's in esports or through esports, then that's fine. Because I tell them, you might never work a day in esports and you're not going to compete as an esports athlete. So why don't we find ways that we can teach you the skills needed to be successful when you graduate? And if it's through that lens of esports, great. If it's through sport management, great. If it's through healthcare management, great. Whatever it is, if we can help these students, whether they're current or future students, get that high quality education and produce productive citizens that can critically think when they graduate, I don't care what vehicle or vessel or lens they're looking through to get those concepts and skills, as long as we're preparing them to be successful when they graduate.
Well, we are at our 5-minute reminder time that I just got notification on. So I do have a couple of questions that are in the chat. I do want to address them and sort of open it up for everyone. So the first question is from Laura. Esports has such a huge spectrum of careers and opportunities when looking at basically credentials for a course. What do you feel is required from that perspective? I guess that's maybe from the teacher perspective. Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
Well, let me answer a different question then entirely. Thank you.
Okay, great. Go for it.
Truly, it's engagement and knowledge in the space that open up additional opportunities for you. Doing is the most important part of the process. It's always changing, so engage and do. A colleague of ours, Brian Hummel at he's in his program at Emerson, works with a class. Well, he's at Bay State, but his I believe his master's program is at Emerson.
Sorry.
The class puts on a tournament. There's so much learning in there that you don't start to quantify and there's a philosophy of essentially creating a problem and good educators then helping students solve that problem and then recognizing what the outcomes were along the way, discerning them as they come out and saying, we learned this and we learned this and we learned these two things, versus deciding what has to be learned and then trying to fit the perfect experience around it. That goes a long way. Hopefully, maybe that answered your question. Maybe it didn't. Sorry.
I think too, maybe to just kind of help in a mirror with that. So what does an esports course look like that wouldn't be necessarily a television course? You know what I mean? So I think, some of the hallmarks that you almost have to hit if you're talking about esports, you're looking at, and I'm trying to take this from a like, I don't really know anything. That's why I'm here. So maybe, making sure that you're part of a community on Discord so that you're learning, who you can connect to help answer some of those questions, that you're looking on Twitch and YouTube as like your two primary kind of casting locations. Being engaged on Twitter and other social media. But I think as far as a course, right, those can be the final kind of deliverables, if you will, having an event that you broadcast to Twitch, for example, and using some of the film and technology as like building up to those project objectives. So that might help, just like, what is it versus, a television course that I can say, yes, this is actually esports. This feels like esports when I engage in this content.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably more coming from a traditional broadcast world, right? We're seeing more online on streaming, utilizing platforms like Twitch, YouTube, gaming, Facebook, etc., to then get the message across to like that. I would say that sort of also, and there's nuances within that as well. Like we're seeing the social interaction element, which is not part of traditional broadcast on top of that. And how do you accommodate for that? Right. There's those nuances that in there as well. There's a question from Jason here. What are your budgets around your students? How much are your students making to do or to make this content? It's a really interesting question because
I can give you a quick answer here.
Yeah, go.
Our
for
budget
that.
this year, entirely self-raised from broadcasting, is $425,000 a year. It covers our staff costs, including my meager pay. I didn't give myself a raise because I don't know that Doc deserves it. We'll talk about that later. But and $150,000 of that is scholarships, which extends to players and broadcast personnel and support personnel. Our students do the streaming that they do on their own, but our broadcasting basically feeds back into that overall budget. And we have a great relationship with Twitch, and we make about $3,000 a year on it. That's all.
Okay.
The other thing I'll throw in there, because I saw
Doug.
in the
Hey, Doug.
I saw in the chat that they were also talking about K-12 a little bit, right? And somebody basically said $0, right, which is pretty accurate. But I think what's really interesting that we see happen a lot at the K-12 level is, that these different like CTE programs just shift their lens to say, hey, we're in digital design. You're going to build a digital design portfolio through this year. This semester, we're going to focus on our esports team, right? So they're still doing the skills and learning those skills that they need to learn for that course anyway, but just shifting the focus to, build sort of a deeper partnership with the esports team through the school.
Well, that probably actually wraps it up because it is.
Do
you have something else? Yeah, sure.
Real quick ones. They're just for Joey.
Good.
Question and a follow-up. Question, really? And follow-up, how dare you? I'll take them off the air, though.
Oh, wow. Dun, dun, dun. Wait, now I feel like I need like a, I don't know. Like
There's a saga between me and Doc that we cannot discuss within. We're out of time.
Oh, sound.
And we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We
Yeah.
thank you for joining. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed our fun conversation today. And we'll talk soon. If you want to find out more about all the programs that we have, obviously, once again, use the app. You guys can follow all of our social media information. I'm sure that's on there in our bios, but we thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.